This is the first of many game development journal entries. Happens to be like, I guess you can consider the first one or the preamble to them all. Yeah. So I got nothing to really show you at this moment of how far I've gone. At, so I have already decided like what game I'm going to start with first. It really came down to two different JRPGs that I want to do first. It's like, yeah, these are two different uh, stories, more or less, and the stories are still being worked out. But to get all the different story paths and whatnot. Uh, but at this moment, I've been working on uh, the graphics end, so yeah, I haven't really decided like what the character sizes are going to be. So I'm basically doing is like kind of a basic character designs and before I really decide. And I'm also making basic templates of the different sizes that I want to try out, like 16 by 16 to that's actually what I'm working on is the 16 by 16. But um, the other larger sizes, I'm not really too sure or whatnot. Um, but still, I did also did with I should say is I also did was written down everything that I can actually do at the moment and what do I need to obtain for later on, especially socking away some money here and there. um that's basically so I just got like a to-do list, and I'm going on is basic character designs by scratch with by drawing them on on paper and stuff, and also using these preliminary sketches to use as a basis for the pixel art. So I'm trying out different sizes. So right now I'm just, like I said, doing the 16 by 16 character size. Uh, but I'll try to see if I would continue liking it or going for a bigger size or something for the characters and whatnot. Uh, but most of the stuff is like just test examples for me. Seeing what I like, what works best of the design overall for me. And same thing with the monsters and whatnot. I will label out later on about which story it's going to be, because yeah, like I said, I chose like one of two different storylines of of games basically. One, like I said, I neither decided what the names are of either game, but one of them is where you start off. You wake up in your own bed, and your mom breaks into your room, tells you to get dressed, so it gives you an idea about how to you know basically go through the controls more or less without telling you this is what you have to do. You have to do this. Having like kind of a tutorial, but not being a tutorial more or less. So you just basically have to go to the spots you need to within the room to equip your items onto your character and whatnot. And you'll end up meeting your dad, and basically your mom ends up taking you to your dad. Your dad tells you like kind of what is this story is going to be for you more or less. basically you got kicked out of the house and told that they care about you, but you're of age, that you need to find your own path in life, and knows that um, like what he does for a business or whatever is he knows it's not your cup of tea, but wants you to explore the world to find your own path. And gives you a suggestion to do is go to another town that's nearby. You can go there or you can wander anywhere else. That's your choice. But basically, he sets you off to a goal to go to another place. He has a friend there that is wealthy, has his own business and whatnot, and has a lot of connections in his town. And he will help you on your path. Like you can work for him for whatever job offers or whatever it is, or you can be one of his apprentices, or you can do is an apprenticeship at any of the other, shops that happen to be in the town because he has connections, whatnot. And you find out that he's actually trying to set up is a guild, yeah, a trades guild, more or less. So all the tradesmen within town, instead of having each a separate guild based off of their skills, since they're very small, they're going to unite. That's kind of like that town's little story, one of the many little weird tales that's going to happen. Um, some of it is like considered like just kind of economic and political bullshit and boring. Some is like kind of interesting. A lot of it is just okay, but you can just skip a lot of the other BS. But if you didn't like any of the stuff that's already in that town, he tells you of other people to go visit, of other towns and cities and whatnot for different particular things. So that's kind of the basis. You go there, and then you can choose what you want to do. And he says you don't have to stick with one thing. You can just wander around and stuff, and if whatever you choose, and if you don't like it, quit. Do something else. Find another path. Because he'll treat you like his own kid, more or less. Because he's known you when you were like an infant, and whatever. But yeah. Um, by the way, there's also little hidden things that happen along the way where you get is like uh, well, you get is like background story and stuff, and you know, um, another animated scenes that will take place and stuff, randomly, that stuff that won't actually happen where you're at. It's like your character should not know this, but you as the player will basically know, because it's like, oh, here's this new thing that's happening that you probably should look out for, to make it more of a story for the player to actually go along with and understand, of all these other little random events happening, of all this. So there's that one. And with that game, you can do is there's combat, there's going to be farming. That's one of the things I have to work on uh, uh, is the farming aspect and stuff. Because I've never actually done a farming sim of any kind, but I want to have that capabilities so you could, plant, you know, having flowers or whatever items that you want to plant and grow and take care of that you can harvest. Just how it is. Other aspects also raising of animals and stuff. Because the whole thing is that you can end up owning your own land and property, and if you want, or you can, yeah, do what you want. There's different paths, and you have multiple skills and all this other stuff that's going to be in it. but a lot of it will be the ability for you to craft items of stuff, of whatever you want. Also mining if you want to do that. You know, basically resource gathering, I should say. And then of course, fighting, of monsters and whatever, thieves and whatnot, and then trading, yeah, and creating your own business or businesses or whatever you want to do. And there will be some political aspects into the game as well, but most of it is like, you know, certain political things, depending on what choices that you made and what you did, will affect the world at large. So I just wanted to make it that your little choices do affect the world at large in this particular game. Nope. So the other one is a JRPG, duh, all basically like 16-bit era graphics, and anything that's like from the Super Famicom and Super Nintendo era. So anyways, the second game is a little more different. It starts off, in whatever time period I chose, on this, weird world, anyways, where they found, a scholar, or is talking to you as the player of this game, specifying that this they found was new books and stuff and other scraps and whatnot about this mysterious person, which, by the way, that mysterious person is the character that you end up playing in the game. So yeah, it's kind of like how the beginning of Final Fantasy Tactics is, where it's in a future time where the scribes are reading about this stuff and they want you as a scribe or whatever to go search for the truth, and basically of what you're uncovering is basically your gameplay. But with mine, it's kind of the same thing, more or less, except the storyline is that the character that you play, the hero of the story is the true hero of this world. So that all of these grand things that happened during this character's lifetime, good, evil, and everything that he's done, was basically the credit was stolen from him. So nobody believes him or anything. Even in his own time, you find out that all of his deeds, good or bad, was just granted to heroes and stuff, that existed during his time, or ones that never existed, that were, made up characters, or others that have died centuries before, that this character was ever conceived of. So, yeah. So, a hero that basically saves the world and all of their great feats of good and bad and was basically stolen from the credit and stuff. It's like, yeah, fuck. So, yeah, they get no respect at all, So that's kind of the whole thing. And then when you beat the game the first time around, doesn't matter what things that you choose and which paths you went, you find out that there's more journals that were found and whatnot that sheds on new light about stuff. So the next time you play, things are not the same. You will end up with different choices and whatever. Some things that seem similar, but different, What you thought was the good path might actually be the bad path. and whatnot. And then you find out that all these historical characters within this game's world, all these heroes and whatever, are actually fucking dicks. They're horrible people, you know. They're they're selfish and self-centered and all this nonsense and whatnot. Just horrible altogether. But I want to. So every time that you think that you completed it, you start all over again. Basically, more new, nonsense was found out. And as time goes on, you realize that the background art changes, including, this is the one thing that I'm trying to to figure out that can it be pulled off. So, of the art assets, so that you would have multiple different designs for building designs and stuff, until you find out that what you originally played through the first time the of the game's like art style and like the buildings and whatever, its technological levels and stuff, and finding out the actual truth overall. But at the very end of the game, more or less, um, I want it to be a cliffhanger. So, um, but I have some ideas that I want, but I want it to be like kind of a surprise. So, yeah, I just want to, like, as the time that you're going playing the game, you think that you got it right or whatever, and you find out, you know, more nonsense and whatever of this world. And you can also do is replay that, level all over again. It's like, did you get it all correct of written down of what you know? You know, try different. You can end up going trying different story paths if you want. You'll have options to have multiple save files. So yeah, but yeah, it's all there. Those are the two games ideas. Before I really started doing any of this, I was coming to conclusions for myself of what kind of games that I should do. Should I actually try to go and create the 16-bit era kind of games that I want to do, like especially those particular two? I haven't decided. I have decided which one of those two is going to be first, but I'll let you know when the time comes about it. But anyways, the ideas that I had about what would be the most profitable or easier for me to do, um, well, I've written them down. And I was deciding, economically, such as the doing one of the JRPGs. Which one, besides which one to do it, but if I go that route, how much the upfront cost is. So to get a RPG maker, the version that I want to get, it'll cost me, roughly about $50. Actually, a little bit less, but okay. Um, then when it's done, to submit it would be on Steam. That's what I decided, to launch it onto Steam. But when I do launch it there, it will be in its finished format. That's basically it. I'm not going to put like a demo on there. No, I'm going to have it as a full finished game there. And I haven't decided what the price is. I want it to be low enough that anybody can easily afford it. The price for me to put it up there, so far from what I do know, it hasn't changed price yet, is Steam charges $100. So basically, 150 for overall cost for this, for what I need to do. I got all these other programs, to make the audio tracks that I want to do. There's not going to be any voiceovers. Maybe later I'll put those in if I decided to hire some voice actors or something. Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? Um, the next idea was a basic text-based game, but not everybody would really want to buy such a thing. So even if I did create, I have a few ideas of stories. Um, I could even just and same thing with ideas of the gameplay, the game mechanics of these text-based games, with some graphics like graphical elements. So it wouldn't be the whole thing. You have to type everything out. But yeah, most of it will just be like a text format. But it will be easier to understand because it will be broken up into like speech bubbles that's colored, a particular color for each of the characters. So yeah, um, to do that, yeah, it wouldn't cost me anything. The only thing it would cost me is like if I choose to host it onto a site. That would be it, if at all. Um, Not gonna send it on to Steam because I don't think anything like that would be viable, or you know. I've also seen some sites where they do upload. People do make some basic HTML text-based games, uh, or limited graphics, or like basically a browser-based game more or less. Um, on some particular sites that will do it for free, but as far as I know, but they go working with another company or several different companies for monetization on it. So that could be a thing. Just throw some simple games that I have ideas for, just like. Eh. The other one is a browser-based game that is very similar to Renaissance Kingdoms, but not exact. Have you ever played Renaissance Kingdoms? Yeah, a game of that caliber, more or less. You know, but more efficient. I have ideas how to fix that game and make it better. So I've written things like this down for years about like how to make a game of that style or similar, genre and whatever. Its time period and stuff, and what mechanics I like, and how to actually implement it as a browser-based game that would be more effective than a lot of browser-based games exist. Because a lot of them are just kind of the same stupid ass shit. You have as a map, and you just do is click on areas that you're supposed to build up your town or some nonsense, just resource gathering that automatically gathers for you. It's like, okay, whatever. Um, just a bunch of timers and stuff, and just basic fighting or whatever. You just click a button, you know, and no rerolls or whatever, no going backwards and then going back and then back to it. So, and a lot of those games have very limited form of online capabilities, or at least I should say is co-oping or MMO, or being an MMO. But the thing is, if I wanted to make a game like that, most of the cost of it is actually, you know, moot, more or less, because I could easily do it. It's not that big of a deal. just making the art assets. I don't have to prescribe to certain sizes like pixel art for a JRPG. It'd be done a lot quicker because it is HTML and stuff. Probably would be also effective as using. It's basically making an interactive website, more or less, if you want to think of it as that. So just add on, um, JavaScript and stuff besides HTML and all that. Whatever. Just some basic scripting for a website and turn it into a game. That's basically it. Uh, the biggest cost of something like that would be hosting. Yeah, finding you know a place to host it. Like what company or whatever. Especially if it's like like GeoCities or some shit like that. Something of that nature where uh, they're the hosting thing, but they also have implementation for you to have is a shopping cart system so people could buy stuff. So, because I was thinking, like, okay, how to monetize it? Um, Basically, just having an in game shop mechanic that is for basically paying for um, certain perks, you know. Although you can grind the hell out of it because I want it to be like a free game, more or less. You can do anything and everything in the game for free, more or less. You just have to grind at it and actually, build up your character, whatever. But I'll allow, like, if you want to be a cheater or whatever, some people say you're cheating, but, just pay to win. But I don't want it to be a pay to play, having roadblocks to say, oh, no, no. Now, if you want to continue, you have to pay. But I want, like, certain aspects of the game to be behind a paywall, more or less. But there's workaways around it, except it's almost impossible or it takes a really long time to do, but it can be done. I just want it so people that are cheapskates that want to really grind at the game that actually want to play to do, but still allow like within the shops like some modifications, other assets and other stuff that's like going to be added to the game to the rest of the players, but it's up at the shop and you can buy it, and some of it is just only within the shop, like cosmetic items that would also have stats attached to it, because why not? Yeah. So same thing like buying extra in-game currency, such as, like, let's say you get stuck or whatever, and you're basically screwed, and you're poor as f, and you cannot find a way of making money and stuff. And there's so many, and you're like literally stuck in a spot where you're like just soft locked, more or less, and the only way you can get out of it is either pay to, for actual money to get in-game currency, or um, the kindness of strangers that decide to do actually help you. But I would choose that people not screwing themselves over. And I was thinking, if someone end up doing, like, how can they get out, so they don't feel horrible? Um, yeah, buy something, pay pay for money, in-game currency, you know, but have it really dirt cheap so they could easily get themselves out of the situation and continue on playing, pretty much free, you know. Um, but I will do is specify within the shop that everything is it does help. The money there is really to help maintain the cost of running the servers and stuff. So instead of like just donating a bunch of money to me or something, for to keep it going, you know, do these things, and I will also having, um, such as voting for everyone that within the game to, uh, the if I ever bother to make it, the whole purpose was like, okay, have like options of voting that would be, doesn't matter what your status is. It's like, okay, here's some, you know, few things that are going to come out. Which one would you want the most? So you get to choose of what new random item that's going to come out, what you would want, which would be technically the first that will come out. Yeah. The other thing is, hmm, oh, what is it? I can't remember. Just brain fart there. Um, More or less. So, anyways, the other thing would be like implementing certain things, like such as like whatever people suggest to be implemented, whatever, and then just have that as an idea. Would this work? Would you want that? Such as, let's say, um, having a paid subscription, you know, having that option, or having um, an area of the game, that would be created that's just for um, membership only, just so it would be, and a whole mess of membership only stuff, like a membership only shop just for people that um, that subscribe to the game more or less, had paid subscriptions to be basically members. Yep, paid members. Just to make it more appealing to people to actually fork over cash for it. Not just for like, oh well, it will help to keep it running. Yep. These kind of things. It can be all done, except like I said, it's just the cost of the servers and stuff like that ahead of time. Finding, you know, um, a company that will be able to host it, whatever. That's kind of the big issue. Not that it can't be built, it's just that particular thing, you know. Like, the hell it is an MMO. Anyone can play, or whatever. And if I do something like that, like to psych people into making that a reality, have like a dumbed down version of it, more or less. That's just one uh, a single player variant, so it's all within a file and whatever. It's all one sealed up game and whatever that will just be released as like a demo. Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Just say, hey, you like this game, and the whole thing is going to be an MMO. It's going to be much bigger, whatever. Um, if you are interested, then there'll be like specifying, like you can send a notice about it, what interests about you, blah 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 blah. You can message me through the game or whatever. You know, sending a message through the system or whatnot, or whatever. How I'm going to implement that if I actually do that, and then specifying like if you're willing to buy a subscription or something, such as like a beginner's perk, like or call it the founder's perk, so or the backer's perk or something. So people buy that, and when it get enough of these things, then can be launched. Yep, And then each one of them just needs to do is, well, set up an account, and they will get is within the email, within an email that sent to them or whatever, will have is their codes and whatever to you know plug in to get their free refund. Specifying. So I want like a separate code for each individual person that will be automatically attached to that account, and it can never be replicated. In other words, can't be reused. No. Well, yeah. So yeah, they'll get like a whole mess of different perks and stuff, and recurring perks that will be continuing forever and ever, and anything else that they want to end up buying, whatever. Like having a monthly subscription and stuff. Yeah, it'll just not replace it, but it'll be added to it. So that. So that's basically it. With all these different ideas and actually going through like, okay, what is the most feasible, economically. The one with the lowest upfront cost also has the the most unknowable at this moment of the cost for it to be hosted, on a server and stuff. So yeah, all the other ones, also kind of iffy and stuff about the price, but right now the only one that I know for certain what the costs are going to be, even though I'm given a give or take of the price range and whatnot, that it's like the basic materials to start the game, of creating, such as all of the art assets, um, the audio that's going to be in the game, such as sound effects and background music and stuff like that. All this basic stuff prior to making the game, I can do that. The only thing is going to be the game engine. I know I could do that within Godot. I have Godot. I could use my assets to create the game in Godot, but I'm not really familiar with it myself. I haven't really messed around with it. I could bother to go with that. That is an option. Maybe to start up like you know uh, a basic demo, seeing what I can do in Godot before I end up forking over the cash for RPG Maker. At least RPG Maker, I'm pretty knowledgeable of it, even though the last one I've used was XP, and I want to use the newer ones, and I've seen that it hasn't really changed much in the UI department. So it's going to be very familiar to me. So in other words, it's going to be a lot easier for me to make the game I want without have to try to rework the engine to format it to the way I'm used to working with any kind of game engine. Yeah. So like Godot, you can make a whole mess of different types of games. But I don't really want to do is mess around with it to tailor it just to make one particular kind of game at this moment. That's just kind of it. So that's all in a nutshell of what everything is. I'll showcase of the art next time and stuff, or I'm showing you what I got. So till then, bye bye.